Hey guys, it's Joe from AmericanTrucks. Today, we're going to be taking a closer look at the Axial LED Fog Lights, fitting all 15 and newer F150s, excluding the Raptor models. Now, this is going to be a great option for any F150 owner out there that's looking to change their fog lights over to LED with a cost-effective and high-quality upgrade. So what do we have going on here with the Axial LED Fog Lights? Well, first off, let's dive into what this thing is made out of. Around back, we have an aluminum housing. Up front, a nice polycarbonate lens on there that's going to be clear and very resistant to shatter in its nature. Now, all of this comes together to make these IP67 waterproof, which means the housing and the plug-and-play connector for this thing are going to be able to withstand up to a meter of water for half an hour, which is way more abuse than it should ever see on the front end of your F150. Even when these are off, these are a looks upgrade, right? We're gonna put these side by side next to our reflector style factory housings in just a second here, and you can see, even with the clear lens on there, this is gonna give you a little bit more of a blackout look, which frankly looks a lot more modern than that old school reflector style housing. So even when they're off, again, a huge upgrade in the looks department. Once you turn these on though, things get even better. These are a 5000K color temperature, so that's gonna be your nice, crisp, bright white color in there. And theoretically, we have a focusing lens behind our polycarbonate lens, so this should focus the light a little bit better where you need it, rather than that reflector style housing, which just scatters light in all directions. A little bit inefficient. This is gonna be a huge upgrade over those. Now, another huge benefit with these, completely plug and play. That's right. These plug right into the harness on our F150. No wiring knowledge necessary. That's just good design from Axial. Well done, guys. Other than that, obviously, these are also DOT and SAE compliant. So again, Axial, well engineered. No matter what state you live in, these are always going to pass inspection on the front end of your F150. So all in all, a great set of performing fog lights, and honestly, I thought these were gonna be more expensive than the price tag that they sit at. We're only looking at around $100, and for your $100, this is gonna be a giant upgrade if you're looking to mess with the fog lights. Again, really, really easy to install. We're gonna show you how it's done in just a second. A really high quality piece that's gonna provide a nice bright white light on there and high quality materials and build quality to boot. So really can't beat it at $100 for the pair here. That is a great price to pay. So install for these is going to be really easy, plug and play, obviously, right? So these are gonna drop in with no modifications in place of our factory fog lights. Now, one thing we are gonna do to get these installed today is remove the bumper. It is possible to install these without removing the bumper, but for video purposes and to show you exactly how it's done, we're gonna take the bumper off again. If you wanted to pick up with us once we get this bumper off of our truck and try to skip a few steps, leave this on your truck, it is definitely possible. However, you're working in some tight spaces here, so just keep that in mind. If you do have to resort to taking off the bumper, you can pick up with us right now. At most, I think this will take us an hour to get installed, so let me show you what tools you'll need and how it's done. Tools required for this install, you'll need either an impact gun or ratchet, small extension, 21mm socket. I used a couple of different trim panel removal tools, as well as a Phillips and flathead screwdriver. So for this install, we're gonna have to loosen up and take off our front bumper here, and for that, we're gonna need a 21mm socket and a small extension. We're gonna loosen up some nuts underneath of our front bumper and unplug our fog lights to start off. And the nut we're looking for is just gonna be toward the outside edge of the frame rail. And again, this guy is a 21mm. Now we're just gonna come to the left a little bit here, and we're just gonna grab our fog light and twist it out. Now we're just gonna reach up to our fog light, and we're gonna pull the two tabs on the back of the harness to release it, and then we can pull that wiring harness away. Now we can come over to the other side, do the same thing. We're gonna remove that nut and then unplug our fog. So now we can attack the hardware from the front here, and it is hidden behind these plastic pads. They're held in with some metal clips. So I'm just going to pry on them with the trim panel removal tool. You can also use a flathead screwdriver here. Just be careful of the paint on your truck. Maybe wrap it in some electrical tape, something like that. But with that said, I'm just gonna take the trim tool, get underneath, give that a good pry. It should pop right off. Now I'm gonna come over here, do the same thing for the other side. This corner right here is a good place to pry as well. It's kind of got a notch cut out of it that's perfect to get underneath of. Now we're gonna remove those 4 nuts, 2 on each side, and again, 21mm socket here. And as you're doing this last one here, this is the last thing holding on your bumper, so put a knee on it, and then you can remove that as well and pull the bumper away. All right, we have the front bumper off of our truck here. We're gonna grab the Phillips head screwdriver and get rid of these alignment screws on our fog lights so we can pull them out. So we can remove the screw, get rid of the spring, and the kit actually comes with some new springs in there, and we can put those aside. So now what we're gonna do here is release these tabs that hold in the fog light to this sort of outer housing here. Now the way I like to do this is I'm gonna pry up on this tab with the flathead screwdriver, and then from the other side, I have this really flat and wide trim panel removal tool. I'm gonna sort of fight against this to release this tab. So that's one done. Now we're gonna jump over to the other side and do the same exact thing. First thing we're gonna do is remove the alignment screw and spring. Then we can come from this side with the flathead screwdriver, pry that up. Trim panel removal tool from the other side to sort of pry it away from the wall. And that should pop right out. Let's hit the other side too. And after that, it should pop right out. So now that we have the factory fog lights off of our F-150, I figure now would be the perfect time to put them down next to our Axial fog lights and point out some of the key differences between the two. While they're turned off on the table here, let's start in the looks department. So, similarities between these two, both clear lens, both a black housing behind it. However, with our new LEDs, we do have that focusing lens behind our polycarbonate lens just to get some more light output and focus our beam versus the factory ones, which sort of give that old school reflector housing vibe. So even when these are off, there's gonna be a noticeable difference with how they look installed on the bumper of your F-150. Moving behind the lights here, some obvious differences. Our LEDs have some aluminum fins on there just for cooling purposes versus the plastic housing on our factory ones. We also have some wires on our LEDs to plug into rather than directly into the bulbs themselves. Now, once we get these plugged in, you're gonna see some more differences as well. Mainly the color temperature, factory, you know what those look like. Standard reflector housing, a little bit toward the yellow side. These LEDs are gonna be that nice, crisp, clear white that looks so good on the F-150. On top of that, with the focusing lens for our new LEDs in there, that's usually a little bit more efficient in terms of light output than this reflector housing, which has a tendency to scatter light in each direction. So theoretically, you should get a little bit more light where you want it with the LEDs. Now, other than that, these are gonna be pretty similar as near as makes no difference. Both of these are waterproof. Our LEDs are IP67 rated, which means they can withstand up to 1 meter of water for half an hour. That's more abuse than they should ever see on the front end of your F-150, and both sets of these are DOT and SAE certified, so no matter what state you live in, you'll always pass inspection with the Axials. So without any further ado, let's get our bumper back up here and we could drop in our new fog lights, reinstall that to the truck, plug them in, and we'll be good to go. So now all we have to do, grab a light. This is just gonna drop right in from the front and click in with those tabs that we pried up earlier. Once that clicks into place, this will now hold it still long enough for you to get this threaded insert in. And then we can push in our alignment spring, and this is a pretty tight fit. And then we can come up with the alignment screw and get that started into that plastic portion. And we're just gonna dial this in with the Phillips head screwdriver. And once you get this installed on your truck, if the alignment is not quite right, you can always come back later and adjust this. Now we're gonna jump over, do the same thing on the other side. Now, at this point, I just want to address something. This might be doable with the bumper still on the truck, but we feel that it's easier to show how to do this once the bumper is off the truck. Just for video purposes, if you wanted to leave this on, you might be able to get away with it. Let's say, for instance, you have small hands and smaller tools. You could probably do it, but just for video's sake, we're taking the bumper off for this one. That's really a judgment call on your part. Save yourself some time, try to get it done with the bumper on the truck, but if not, you might be taking this off like we did. Now, one thing I do want to note is really the only thing that gets in your way is the crash bar will be right in this area and really limits access to this tab over here. So that's really the only consideration that I could think of if you did want to leave the bumper on. And with all that sorted, we can now drop our bumper back onto our truck. And then we could reinstall our 21mm nuts and align our bumper and lock these in with the impact gun. And we're gonna do the same thing for the other side. Now, while we still have this cap off, you got to install these guys right here. So we're going to reach in. And I'm just going to leave that started for now. Once we go underneath of our truck, we'll put a nut on that and tighten it down. Same exact thing goes for the other side. Once we have all our hardware installed, we can then put these caps on, and they're just gonna press back into place. So then we can put that last nut on this side, tighten it down. So now that we have that nut installed, we can come over here to our fog light plug, and we're just gonna drop that right onto our truck's harness. We can wrap this one up by doing the same thing for the other side. Now, all that's left for us to do is just pull our F-150 up to a flat wall here on flat ground and dial in the adjustment with those Phillips head screws. But that's gonna do it for me. It's also gonna do it for the Axial LED fog lights fitting all 15 and newer F150s, excluding the Raptor models. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this one. Keep it right here at American Trucks for all things F-150.